Before you can start calling yourself a photographer, there are 4 things you need to know. Here it goes. I'm going to tell you that right now with the help of my assistant, my plant model. I totally forgot when I named her, which makes me kind of sad, but here it goes. Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Angela. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. And if you enjoyed the video overall, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well. So I am a beginner photographer, and when I got my camera, I looked into the basics of what I need to know. And the 4 things I'm going to tell you are absolutely a necessity. And if you don't know about them yet, then I'm glad you came here, because they are an essential to any photograph that you're ever going to take. And those 4 things are shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and the rule of thirds. The one thing you need to know about shutter speed is that lower equals slower, so the lower the number, the slower the shutter speed. And what that means is the shutter in your camera moves slower and opens up longer. Your shutter will be open for a longer amount of time, letting more light in, which brightens up the photo. The only downside about this is if your shutter is set to a really low speed, then you need a tripod, because the shutter is open long enough that if you make any slight movement, your photo will be blurry. Editing Angela here, I realized that I forgot to mention that a higher shutter speed is also really good for any photos that include motion. So for instance, this picture, I needed the image of the coffee splash captured, and if it wasn't for a high shutter speed, it would have been super blurry. So next is aperture. So aperture is usually the middle setting on your camera screen when you're shooting in manual mode, and the lower the aperture is, the brighter the photo is. The higher it goes, the darker the photo gets. But with aperture, the main thing that you're controlling is the depth of field. So the lower the aperture is, or f-stop, which is another thing it's called, the lower the aperture is, the smaller the depth of field of your photo is. Whatever is closer to you is what's going to be the focus. And if it's a small depth of field, then it's not going to get whatever's behind it, so it's going to be a blurrier background. But if it's a higher aperture, that means that you can see detail in the background as well. If you're shooting landscapes, you want to do a high aperture setting to really get all those details. But if you're shooting close-up portraits, a low aperture, if you really want that blurry background, is what you're going to go for. The next thing is ISO. So ISO is what you use to control the brightness and the darkness of a photo. Low is dark, high is bright. But it's kind of as a last resort. Your first resort for changing the brightness of a photo is going to be shutter speed. But say you're in a dark setting and you can't go to a super low shutter speed because you don't have a tripod, then you adjust your ISO. The lower the ISO, the higher the quality of the photo will be, and the more creamy and smooth the colors will be in that photo. As you raise it, anything over 1600, you start seeing a little bit of grain. And I'll insert photos to show all this. Your goal when taking a photo is to keep the ISO low and adjust the shutter speed instead. But like I said, if you're in a situation where your shutter speed can't go low, then that ISO has to go up. Also, fun fact, ISO stands for the International Standards Organization. I looked this up before this video because when I was thinking and taking notes for this video, I was just like, I don't know what ISO stands for. And it turns out it's like some standard organization that was established in 1974 after another organization, blah, 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 blah. So it has nothing to do with the actual function of it. It has to do with the organization that founded it, but I just thought that was interesting. So fun fact of the day. Alright, so my 4th thing that you absolutely need to know is the rule of thirds. While the other 3 things have to do with camera settings, this one has to do with your manual maneuver of the camera instead, and your composition of the photo. The rule of thirds pretty much divides the photo into 3 going both ways. So 3 vertical sections and 3 horizontal sections. You gotta imagine that there is a tic-tac-toe board on your screen. Most cameras actually have a setting that you can put this tic-tac-toe board right on your viewfinder or on your screen for live view. And what the point of those lines are is not only to allow you to center yourself if you want to be in that middle column, but to also see the lines that your eye are drawn the most to as a viewer. So if you have a subject and they are not perfectly centered, then they should be falling onto one of these lines. If you're having a portrait that's actually really close up, one of the rules is where the lines intersect, you should have their eye on that line if it's a really close-up face photo, because for some reason when we look at pictures our eyes are drawn to the rule of thirds, and that's just a general composition rule that everyone goes for. It's in everyone's rule book and it's an absolute necessity to know. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope this video helped any beginner photographers out there. If it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and feel free to watch any of my other videos if you would like. You know, no pressure, just putting them for you. Don't worry, don't gotta click them. Until next time, bye.